Is Jalen Walker trending towards becoming a top 10 NFL draft pick? We're breaking that down more today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Krabs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Joe, happy Tyrell Dotson Day to you.
Ah, yes. Pour one out. Pour.
No, and you know what? The only reason I decided to make a joke about it was because, like, we did have the exchange, and, like, it was the 1 in 31 chance that team was going to claim him, but Tyrell Dotson gets waived by Seattle, and obviously he's got a familiarity with Buffalo. And I said, man, you're going to be real disappointed when he becomes Miami Dolphin. Sure enough. Tyrell Dotson. So, let's not sink too much time on Tyrell Dotson. Let's talk draft. Let's talk prospects. Let's talk 3 players that were in my latest first-round mock draft. We're doing deep dives on these players. Minnesota offensive tackle Aireontae Ersery is a big, powerful, 330-pound guy with length. We'll talk about him. Walter Nolen, transfer from Texas A&M at Ole Miss now. Penetration type 3 technique. We'll talk about him. But we got to start, and this was by Joe's request, so I have a feeling he has something tangibly big to say here about Georgia linebacker Jalen Walker.
Something tangibly big. All right.
I'm always fascinated on who you want to start the conversation.
Because I think he's the most interesting one of these players.
Wow.
I feel very differently about each one, but I mean, Jaylen Walker, there's just, if you like freaks, right? If you like freaks, I mean, that's what Jaylen Walker is, 6'2", 245 pounds, just super, super athletic. And obviously he wears a lot of hats in that Georgia defense, playing off ball, playing on the edge, playing in coverage, defending the run as a stack backer, playing on the, all over the place. And so I think that's exciting, but also makes me a little bit nervous with him. But when you see him just rush and you see him attack the pocket, he's got bend, he's got contact balance, he's got more length than you think he's going to have, or at least he plays with good extension and it doesn't really get engulfed by blocks. And it's like, yeah, I want this dude attacking the pocket for my defense. And I feel like I'm going to have a really good pressure player in the right scheme. So he just gets you excited based on the athleticism and the flashes he's given you as a pass rusher.
Yeah. So he's a complex player because he was more of a off-ball linebacker. You go back to kind of his background and when he first came in, he's getting reps on the edge. He's getting reps at stack backer, but he was a rotational guy for the first couple of years at Georgia with a big special teams impression. He came into this season with very limited amounts of snaps, and he only turns 21 years old in February of this year upcoming. So he's a 20-year-old prospect right now. So I think determining a pathway for him or having the right kind of fit is essential for a young player that doesn't have reps.
Yeah.
Substantial amounts of reps. Where do you like him best? As far as do you like the pass rush profile as an every down pass rush guy? Do you like him as a stack backer that can be weaponized? Does he have to move around? If you had to pick a spot, these are questions teams are going to have to ask with him,
Yeah. And I think the more you start to ask those questions, the less attractive he becomes, to be honest with you, because I don't love him as a stack linebacker. I don't see a super instinctive player. that plays with a whole lot of good like processing and play speed. I like him best when he's rushing off the edge, and that's what I want to do with him. I don't want to talk. I don't need to have any conversations about playing him as a true stack linebacker, at least in terms of the way I see him. I want him in that Jonathan Gannon defense, playing the Hassan Reddick, the Dennis Gardeck role. Like that's what I'm looking for. Like look at what Vance Joseph has done with Nick Benito. That type of a role is what I'm looking for. I that's where I get interested. If you want to have kind of that true, I mean, almost what Will Anderson does for Houston, right? That type of player is what I'm looking for. Almost like a true Leo type player. I don't love the off-ball stuff, man. I just don't. And maybe I saw it differently than you did, but I want him rushing off the edge.
No, because I actually think his ability to negotiate blocks between the tackles and deconstruct blocks as a stack backer is really good.
Yes.
So that was the off-ball stuff where it's like, okay, like if it's 3rd and 7,
boy,
he's rushing the passer, right? It's just, where is he rushing the passer? Now, Georgia does a ton of stuff where they'll put him off ball and he'll be a shallow spy where he doesn't authentically commit to a gap.
Right.
Now you have to have certain horses in the rest of your defense to pull that off.
Right.
And especially at the NFL level, because now you're removing a number from the coverage and you're removing technically a number from the rush group.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how much like that's authentically translatable against, unless it's against like a really specific quarterback and opponent that you're going against. But I liked his ability to plug as a linebacker. So on your early downs, it's just a challenge of, I don't think he's got great flexibility in his hips when he's moving laterally or dropping to zone landmarks. And I certainly don't think he has the short area quickness at the top of a route stem to play man-to-man coverage and mirror against running backs out of the backfield, right? It's just not in the cards. Another name, I had a couple of the names in my report for the 33rd team. You mentioned Hassan Reddick. And that's like the authentic, he's the pass rusher player.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to think of, if he's going to live in this world where he plays off the ball and he rushes the passer. You have any names that come to mind for you of those? I'm curious if we have overlap here, and I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot.
It's not a lot of those players, right?
Right. Like Jamie Collins down.
Okay, there you go. Sure.
Guy who played off ball and rushed the passer for New England.
Yeah,
and I think where I found solace in some of these names, you're getting different defensive schemes and ideologies.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's not the same thing as the Jonathan Gannon defense.
You're adapting. If you get a player like Jalen Walker, there's an adaptability that you have to have, right? You're not going to put him in one spot in terms of like, he plays this position for us. I think you have to be adaptable and creative with how you want to run your fronts.
A couple of Fangio guys I also invoked was Van Ginkel from his time in Miami, where this past year in 2023 was the first time he really played stack off the ball, but they let him do that in some nickel stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Zach Bowen. Think about Zach Bowen.
He's coming. He's been really good.
Yeah. But it took a while because of what he was asked to do in New Orleans versus remember he might be the most direct college prospect parallel to Jalen Walker, but Walker's
stylistic,
like stylistically.
Sure. Yeah. I think you got some great names to invoke, and obviously you put some time into thinking about that, and I think those are the right names. And honestly, that gets me more excited because I had a very brief conversation with myself yesterday when I was watching him. I was like, who am I pointing to as this is the blueprint? And I you wrote it for a published, you were trying to come up with those names, and I think you did a great job. When you said Jamie Collins, I felt things. When you said Andrew Van Ginkel, when you said Zach Bowen, I was like, okay, yeah, there's the light bulb. I think those are perfect names to invoke.
And that was really important to me for him because I did love the tape with what he does, but I do recognize if you're just going to draft him to play in a wide 9 system and rush outside, or you're going to ask him to be a stack off ball linebacker all the time, but you're a pressure heavy group, so you feel like you're going to get enough pass rush value, like you're doing him a disservice. So it was really important to me as I sat here and thought about this player, how many different pathways to success can I find in different types of schemes with different kinds of players that have some level of overlap, where I think in some cases he might be a more special athlete than a lot of those names.
100%. Yeah. All right, let's hope that he goes to a creative defensive mind that can unlock the most, because there's a lot of fun to be had with Jalen Walker as part of your NFL defense. All right, coming up, Walter Nolen, defensive tackle, Ole Miss. I felt things watching this tape. We'll talk about it on the other side. Be sure to stick with us. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. And I have the perfect plan. If you want to win your first $5 bet, put $5 on the Detroit Lions money line against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and you will get $150 in bonus bets. Just visit FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. All you do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. I personally love that PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get money in as quick as 15 minutes, and PrizePicks now offers Venmo for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals into your account this season. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use our code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game.
So Walter Nolen Jr., 6'3", 305-pound, 3-technique type player, defensive tackle, transferred after 2 seasons from Texas A&M, where he played in 22 games. Came to Ole Miss this season as part of perhaps the best defensive front in the country. I don't know if you picked up on that, Joe, from watching Nolen specifically, but I mean, they got horses all up and down this defensive line, and guys are getting after the passer.
Kyle, have you ever watched a player and you start watching the tape, you got it on, and you got the wrong number? And you realize you watched several plays, and you're like, that's not the player I'm supposed to.
Let me go back and rewatch these 6 plays, these first
brother,
6 plays of the game, because I'm looking.
So let me tell you, I started watching the Walter Nolen tape, and I'm watching 51. I'm like, I'm not sure, man. What are we doing here? Like, whoa, why am I watching this player? And then I realized that he's not 51, he's 2. And boy, did I have fun. This is one of those watches, man. I just was like, I really like this football player. Unbelievable athleticism, explosiveness. Yep. The change of direction skills are off the chart. Like, his ability to turn and pivot and hinge is really, really special, which that translates to getting off contact when you get those soft angles to be able to, peel away and get off contact and make plays. And he's got a lot of power, man. When he has it cranked up, dude, he's like a ball of muscle. He's tough to move. I really like Walter Nolen in a penetration style 3-tech role in the NFL. Like, this is going to be one of my dudes for sure.
I think the thing that stood out the most in watching Nolen, other than just like the raw movement skills, was how it applied when he was facing like pressure in a 3-dimensional plane, if that makes sense. Like, if I'm going to rush this gap and the center's going to block back on me and try to ride me out, the way in which he is able to apply pressure back against that lateral contact, but still play dynamic and still have agility. And then if the back uncovers or the quarterback flushes away as I'm leaning in to fight the pressure, I can then easily transition off and keep my base and not have that sudden change of lateral pressure on me force me to lose my footing or break my stride. So the lower half is very detached from what's going on up top, but it comes with, I don't want to abuse the word elite here, but like elite core strength, I thought, to be able to handle the things that are happening from the waist up and fight that and combat that while still keeping the dynamic ability that I have in my lower half.
Yeah, some of his ability to just like leverage and unlock and just literally just put dudes back into blocks or back into gaps was like, okay. And then some of his ability to like retrace and redirect is just off the charts.
You know who's not going to have room for him that would love him? They're probably not going to have room for him on their depth chart. Love him.
Well, what team wouldn't want this player?
Right. I think about like kind of the profile of athletes the Rams have gone after, and this is obviously really fresh because I just watched the defensive game tape. But you got Fisk, you got Kobe Turner. Like these aren't the biggest guys, but they have natural leverage. They have elite core strength, and their ability to get lateral out, like even in quick game in the passing game, was like, holy cow, these guys can fly, man.
Name in my head when watching him was Kawan Short. I think I saw a lot of like just similar body type. You know, what was Kawan Short? Was he even 300 pounds coming out right at about 300 pounds? 6'3", 299 actually is what he was. And just that quickness and like really balanced player. The pass rush is easy to identify, but like he's a very good run defender. That was kind of, I don't know if surprising is the right word, but it's like sometimes you see guys that are good interior rushers and you're like, well, can they exchange power and squeeze gaps and get off contact against the run? And boy, I thought he could. I thought he could for sure. So what's the buzz on this guy? Like what is, and people talking about this like a top 15 player? I think he went 20 in your latest mock draft.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the back 12 picks of mocks is generally
feels low. That feels super low to me.
You know, and I think part of it is just the raw production hasn't been there.
I haven't looked at it. I'd be surprised if he wasn't like a high tackles for a loss sack player.
All right, so I'm going to use. I like to be
universal. I love this space that I'm in the draft this year. I don't know what the buzz is. I don't know what the stats are. I just watch the tape and I tell you what I think about it.
How many career sacks do you think Walter Nolen has? He's played in 30. He's played in 32 career games. 10 this year for Ole Miss, and 22 in Texas.
Got to have 5 or 6 this year, I'm sure, right?
No.
More?
No.
He's got. So what's up with this?
So how many career sacks do you think Walter Nolen?
Oh, I don't know. You said 32.
32 games.
10. I was thinking he's 10 sacks, I guess.
9 sacks.
Well, I adjusted my calculation based on knowing that.
Right. If you just watched the tape and didn't do the full like statistical dive, what would you have guessed he would have been at?
In 10 games, 6, 7 sacks for sure. What does he have again this year?
He has 4 sacks this year.
Oh, all right.
Now, part of that this year is because
they're going to go to the playoffs and stuff, right? That's a good team.
I would they're 8-2. I would expect with the way like Georgia's got 2 losses now. Bama's got 2 losses.
Is there any good teams in college football this year?
They already played each other head to head. It's Oregon and Ohio State.
And who won?
Oregon won at home by a point. And there was a controversial finish there. It felt like if there was a second left on the clock to try to kick a field goal and for Ohio State to win the game, and didn't happen. So it was a down to the wire game. But Ole Miss this year, they lost to Kentucky. Kentucky's a fun team. And they lost to LSU in LSU. And they lost that game. That was in overtime.
So maybe
Nussmeier willed them back. They have at Florida, Mississippi State. They'll win the next 2 games.
Okay. What happens with the SEC championship now? Is there East versus West? How do we pick the teams? Is there even a game anymore?
Imagine thinking I have a confident answer.
Does anybody have a clue what's going on?
So he's 4th on the team in sacks. That's part of the reason why the sack production this year is not equal to what you would expect. They've got 2 edge rushers that have 19.5 sacks combined.
The Florida transfer, right? Princely.
Yeah. I think he's got 2 sacks in like each of his last 3 games.
Oh, we got to watch this guy,
Brother, he is coming on.
Let's go.
He also made the first round mock. He is coming on in a big time way. And then Jared Ivey is another player for them at 6'6", 280, another transfer in. He previously played at Georgia Tech. He's a redshirt senior, but he's got 7 sacks this year. So people, I think there's a disassociation with the numbers. And then there's you go for tackles for loss. He's 6th on the team in tackles for loss with 7.5.
Really? This is nuts. This is absolutely nuts to me.
They have rabid dogs on that defensive front. I mean, they are super fast, super explosive, super disruptive. And And I think some of that eats into Walter Nolen specifically. And I think that's part of the reason why there is a disassociation, because he was generally perceived as a prized recruit, a little bit of an underachiever at Texas A&M. And then he goes to Mississippi State or Ole Miss, and the tape's good.
Man, who didn't underachieve at Texas A&M? They remind me of like Tennessee a few years ago, where they got good players and they were never good for Tennessee. Then all of a sudden they're like pretty good in the NFL. Yeah, it's Texas A&M, right? I feel like that's exactly what that is.
And Mike Elko throwing shade at Jimbo the other week. Did you see that?
I get it.
He said this is a real football program. This isn't a politician up here telling you what you want to hear or something like that. I was like, good for you,
man,
Mike.
I love Mike. I love that guy. This guy goes to the Senior Bowl. He's gonna wreck stuff, man. He's gonna wreck stuff. I hope he does.
But I put him in with Houston in my mock. And what a nightmare that would be for everybody else, right?
You're not going to convince me that there's not a good spot for him to go. Like,
how do you compare to Mason
Graham?
Think about it. Let's go to break.
Let me think about that while I tell everyone about the sponsor here. Ultimate Pro Football.
Do you want me to do it?
Stick with us.
All right. Well, no, I gotta pull it up. You can't just throw me into the bus like that. But
thought you had it ready to go.
If you want to think about, if you have anything to say to filibuster about Mason Graham and
I'll think about how Mason Graham compares to Walter Nolen. I'm going to pull up my notes on Mason Graham so that I can give a good answer as Kyle pulls up what he needs to pull up to continue
don't do
today's episode.
Yeah, all right, we'll be right back. We're going to get you out of this mess. I'll be right back. Football fans, you certainly remember our great partner, Ultimate Pro Football GM. They are back, and they have an amazing new game mode that we want to tell you about. The game that has you step into the shoes of a football franchise GM and lead it to glory now has a head coach career mode as well. So on top of getting to build your dynasty by drafting players, signing free agents, and hiring coaching staff, now you also get to call offensive plays during the game as well. Additionally, you'll dig the new tools that you can work with, such as individual training camps, upgrading negotiation system for contracts. So this fun, realistic game just got a whole lot better. If you already have it installed, make sure to give it an update so you can try out the new game mode. If you don't have it, download it right now. It's a must-have for all football fans. I love it. Joe loves it. You will too. Ultimate Pro Football GM is completely free. There's no ads. It's 100% playable offline, which is my favorite thing about it. You can play on the go as you want, when you want. There's a special offer for Locked On fans. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL in all caps inside the game store to receive a free boost to your franchise. Make sure to get it, as this perk will jumpstart your play and give you the advantage you'll want in creating a dynasty. To download the game, visit ultimate-gm.com, ultimate-gm.com, or look it up in the app stores. Ultimate Pro Football GM. Start your dynasty today. People forget I have to do the ads for Locked On.
Kyle, I was sitting there thinking the people that have been clamoring for you to do the ad reads have got this. What a moment for them.
People forget I do them every day.
Wow.
Just not here.
And if you want to hear Kyle do the ad reads, please go listen to Locked On Dolphins.
Dolphins, please.
They'll be there for you. You can listen to them all. Looking at my notes from Mason Graham, because this is fun to kind of consider the two. These are the big things that I have written down. Feel for the ball, instincts, leveraging his gap and finding the ball, working to edges, slippery, powerful, explosive, contact balance and balance through contact, rock back power in his hands to reset the line of scrimmage, moves, club, rip, hump, spin, lateral quickness, good on stunts. I think maybe he's just a little bit more instinctive, right? Like a little bit more pop in his hands. He's bigger, right? 320 pounds.
Nolan's comfortably better athlete, though.
I agree with that.
So you go back to that 19 draft class, right? Because that was my comp for Graham is Quinnen Williams.
Yeah.
That 19 draft class also had Quinnen Williams. It had Ed Oliver. It had Christian. It had Dexter Lawrence. It had Jeffrey Simmons. We're all top 20 picks in that draft class. Which one of those guys gives you the most Walter Nolen vibes?
Quinnen, I guess. Quinnen or Jeffrey Simmons. So
Quinnen was super young player.
Isn't Walter Nolen super young too?
Yeah, he doesn't turn.
Like he's very young. I thought, like just insanely young.
I don't have his date of birth off the top of my head. He was born on October 14th, 2003, so he's 21.
21. He just turned 21 though.
Yeah, he'll be 22 in his rookie season. So it's not
normal.
Young,
normal. Yeah. Good here. What did you have a thought on that?
No,
parallel?
I think Quinnen's probably the right name. I think he profiles a little bit more prototypical than what Ed has.
For sure. Way different. Yeah. Some of the ability to contort and pivot and hinge is similar, but
so the question
is Walter gets off blocks better than Ed does.
Are we going to let modest sack production keep a player that has all the goods? Or is this like, do we need to be first here and really start pushing the gas on this being a higher prospect than what he's ranked as?
I'd be stunned if he's not a top 10 or 12 player on my board. I'd be stunned.
Okay, there you go.
Stunned. All right, we got another player here.
Aireontae Ersery.
Thank you, from Minnesota. Ersery.
Offensive tackle.
What do you have his height and weight?
I have everything. 330 pounds.
6'6", 330. From Bruce Nolan's. Shout out Bruce Nolan. Bruce Feldman's freaks list. 152 in the 10-yard split. That's insane. 18.35 miles an hour on the gun. 4.61 in the short shuttle. 9.2 broad. 27.5-inch vert at 6'6", 330.
I think that lines up with his tape, with the exception of what agility number did he have there? A shuttle?
4.61 short shuttle. Yeah.
I think that one doesn't pass the sniff test for me. I'd also be willing to bet he runs faster than a 1.52 10-yard split at the combine.
That's pretty good, though. I mean, if he gets
that's an insane number.
Oh, you're saying he's bad?
I think he will be. No, I think he'll be slower than that. That just is such a mind-numbingly fast 10-yard split for a 330-pound guy. I can't.
I thought he moved really well. It's my favorite thing about him.
Is the linear explosiveness, right?
Yeah,
and it shows in vertical movement off the point of attack in the run game. When they run zone, particularly I thought on the backside, when he just is going to work backside cutoff and attack you or try to get across your numbers to the peck on the other side and run you down the line of scrimmage. I think he does that really well. He's got good length. I think he's a much better run blocker than he is pass protector, though.
Yeah, he needs work, right? Just a very toolsy prospect, but like what really stood out was just it's a lot of technical work that he needs. Like I feel like sometimes he gets really into playing with a lot of reach and extension, and kind of his feet are behind him and his hands get wide, and he doesn't really latch and sustain. Like the grip strength doesn't look very good to me. I mean, it's physical traits that you're buying into here, but a player that I think just from a technique perspective needs a lot of work. Want to see him just be rooted more, like leverage your hips, play with good, like root yourself in the ground so you can have a firm base, but then bring your feet with you. This screams like overdraft based on tools, but if it hits, it's going to be a good player.
So how do you cross-reference that with the fact that over the past 3 seasons, he's now played in 36 games, started 36 games, has almost 2,200 snaps?
I think we got some things to learn. We got some muscle memory to work out of there.
Undo, right?
Yeah, we got some work to do here. Yeah.
So he played in 1 game in 2020, and then he redshirted 2021, and then he's been a starter ever since. So that's I hear everything you're saying, but this is a 5th-year player with 3 years of starting experience in the Big Ten. So for there to still be technical lapses on the upper and lower half, I thought in pass protection, he turned some guys loose as far as not processing what was happening in the front with a secondary pressure from the second level. Thought his integrity in the B gap at times, and like passing the wrong guy off to let a more dangerous guy go to try to pick somebody else up. I think
that's tough to reconcile, Kyle, that he's played 36 starts.
I know that, and that's where I have the hard time. And I know like people see the traits and people get really excited about the traits, and I get excited about the traits, but some of it's this offensive tackle class, and if you can get him in the right environment, like I put him with Baltimore in my mock draft. I think if he goes to Baltimore and can take over from Ronnie Stanley, and there's a succession plan there, like I think it can make sense, and I would trust them to develop him. I wouldn't trust everybody to develop him.
Yeah,
it's very muddy for me to get a strong level of confidence in who he is and who he's going to be.
I have a hard time convincing me this is an early starter. It's hard enough to come in and start as a rookie offensive lineman. Like, you got to have a plan, and I think that's probably rooted in being patient and not drafting him to be a starter for you right away. So a place like Baltimore where you don't feel like that urgency is going to exist makes a lot of sense. But yeah, if you need a year one starter, this isn't it. But
maybe McCarry can be the eraser again. Now we got Rosengarter up and loaded at right tackle. Maybe McCarry could just go play left tackle if they draft him there, and when they feel like he's ready, he can go.
Yeah, like if you're the Bengals, this can't be your pick to come in and be your left tackle next year. Like, we can't do that.
I mean, they're already having a hard enough time with Amarius Mims, who had a lot of the same bullet points, but at least he didn't play 36 starts.
Right. So, I mean, he's going in mock drafts. I see him in the first round. I see him ranked pretty high. Like, what is this, dude? Every one of these tackles I keep watching, I'm like, what's the deal here? Like, we just needed tackles.
Yeah, because it's a wide open. You know who he kind of reminds me of? Suama Atia from BYU last year.
No, I kid you not. I was thinking of that earlier today.
Were you?
I kid you not. I was thinking of that, and he's been terrible as a rookie.
But he was a guy who was getting some first round buzz, ends up going on day 2.
End of the second round. The last pick, right?
If you told me that was the fate for Ersery, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Like, that's a little bit more in line with where he's at in my board versus doing mock drafts.
Which are different things.
Right.
Give me a good tackle, Kyle Krabs. Come on.
You find one out, or if anybody's got one, let us know. Like, we're digging through these guys.
We need them.
I guess we should do Cameron Williams from Texas next week, since that was the big surprise for you this past time around.
Can't wait.
But that's going to do it for us here on Locked On NFL Scouting. Kyle Krabs, Joe Marino, a little NFL Drafts prospect spotlight for you in the middle of the week. Tomorrow, we're prepping you for week 11 of the NFL season. And then Friday, we have Takes on Takes, which is our weekly mailbag where you give us your hot takes. We give our reaction and our take on your hot take on the Friday show. That's what you have to look forward to still this week. Kyle Krabs, Joe Marino, we are out of here.